Good morning and happy Sunday. I hope that everyone is doing well and you're ready to dive into this week's episode. So by a show of hands, how many people have seen my guest bathroom renovation video? That's right. Most of your hands should be up by now, and if you've seen that video, then you know that it's really important to me that when guests come to visit, that they feel right at home. Having a personal space for our guests to be in while they're here visiting with us is really important to us, and so that's why this week I decided to go ahead and show you our guest bedroom makeover. Just over the last couple of weeks, we've had a few people come and stay with us, and each of them have said how much they appreciated having their own bathroom and bedroom to retreat to while they were here. And honestly, I just love being able to provide these spaces for them. So today I thought that I would show you how we used this used to be unused room into a personal sanctuary for our guests. Once the decision was made that I was going to be moving in, I knew that I wanted to use a good majority of my bedroom furniture in this space. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to use a lot of the furniture just because my bedroom in my old apartment was much bigger than this bedroom was, but I knew that there were a few key pieces that I wanted to bring over, and I knew that I wanted to have a very specific vibe. I didn't want the room to look just like my room did in my old apartment, but I wanted to somehow figure out how I could elevate it a little bit more and just make it its own new personal space. So as the build of the walk-in closet was coming to an end, I knew that I wanted to start on the guest bedroom next. And this is what it looked like before. And I knew that the yellow paint absolutely had to go, as well as the popcorn on the ceiling. So we reached out to a few people to get some quotes to see how much it would cost to get the popcorn removed. And initially I thought it was going to be just a couple of $100s, which I thought was very reasonable. But as the quotes were coming in, we were getting quotes from anywhere from $800 to about $1,200, I think was our highest. And once we got those quotes, we said, we're going to do this ourselves. And so we did. Why we do this to ourselves, I have no idea. If you've ever taken down popcorn, then you know it is not an easy task. Once the popcorn was taken down, and I do have to admit that Mark did a good majority of the removal, we noticed that there were lots of just minor scrapes and divots and imperfections in the ceiling that we wanted to smooth out. So we went and bought a big bucket of spackle, and we kind of watered it down with just a little sprinkle of water, mixed that around to thin it out, and then we skim coated the entire ceiling just to smooth everything out to make sure everything was nice and even. So then we allowed the spackle to dry overnight, and because it was so thin, we probably didn't need to wait that long, but we just went ahead based on the directions and allowed that spackle to dry overnight. And then the next day we went back and started sanding. So as you can see, I didn't do a really good job at using the stick sander. I just, for whatever reason, could not get into the groove with it. So I decided to take it back old school, get one of those little sanding sponges, and went up there and started to sand myself. I just felt like I could control the sanding much easier, and yes, it did take a lot longer than it would have if I would have been able to figure out how to use the sanding stick, but it worked like a charm and I'm totally fine with that. So as a pro tip though, I will mention, make sure that you have the appropriate coverage over your eyes and your nose and your mouth and even your hair. You just do not want those little particles all in your lungs and your eyes and just in your breathing space. So make sure that you protect yourself appropriately. And then finally, once everything was sanded and smooth, we decided to take a Swiffer pad to remove all of the dust. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't until I posted this process on my newsletter where one of my readers said, "Why didn't you just use a shop vac to remove all of the dust?" And I was like, duh, of course I should have used a shop vac. I don't even know, I just didn't even think of it. I just thought a Swiffer pad. We could just put it on a stick and swipe up there and get all of the dust off. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but now, lesson learned for the next project, right? So anyway, the ceiling had been sanded, all of the dust had been removed, and now it was time for paint. So as I mentioned, the yellow paint was not gonna do. It was not a part of the vision or the vibe that I wanted for this space. And instead we went with the bare antique white in an eggshell, and absolutely loved it. I just knew that I wanted something just a little softer, that gave a little brightness to the room, but also was just really cozy. And I felt like this color was going to do that for us. And so not only did we paint the walls in that color, but we also painted the ceiling in that color. And I love that decision. I've seen some designers do that before, and I just thought that it would be a really cool idea to try that out in this room, and it really did pay off. I love how it looks. I know that typically people have white ceilings, but in this space I wanted to do something different. And even though the color is a version of white, I just feel like it just is enough of a difference to warm this space up. So after the first coat of paint was on the walls and the ceiling, I did a walkthrough of the space. And while I really loved it, and it definitely felt just more bright and more fresh, I knew that there needed to be another pop in the room. So I remember going to Mark and saying to him, what do you think about painting the trim and the doors a matte black? What I don't remember is that conversation happening in the other way. He swears that he is the one that came to me and offered a suggestion of painting the trim and the doors black. I don't remember that. It sounds so off-brand for something that he would suggest, but I'm just gonna let him have it, because in the end all it mattered was we both were on board that we were going to paint the trim and the doors. But even then I really wasn't like 100% sure. So I went on Instagram and posted a story, and this is what I posted. And I basically just wanted to know, like, should I do it? Do you think that this is a good idea? And so as you can see in the poll, 97% of people said, yes, absolutely, great idea, do it. You know what motivated me? Those 3%. Those people that said, ew, no, absolutely not, I would never do that, don't ruin the wood in your space. Those people, or those 3% of people, were what motivated me. And that is when we said, okay, absolutely, let's do it. Let's prove the people wrong. So the next day it was time to put the second coat on the walls and the ceiling. But as we were inspecting the room, we noticed a lot of imperfections in the ceiling. So many that we just knew that we had to fix it. So yes, we had to take the spackle back out, and we had to spackle the ceiling, allow that to dry. I think it was probably another 24 hours until that dried. Once everything was dried, then we had to go back, resand it, remove the dust. It was a whole thing. But once all of that was done, we said, this is perfect enough. This will do. We're not doing any more. I think that we're ready to paint. And it was at that moment that I said to Mark, I'm not doing this again. I'm literally not doing this again. I will pay for whatever it is that someone else wants in order to come and get this popcorn off. But I promise you, this project, this is not in my ministry. I'm absolutely not taking down popcorn again. And I meant that. So I went back to Home Depot, because actually the ceiling soaked up a lot of paint that I had to get a whole nother gallon. And while I was there, I also got the paint for the trim and the doors. And so once we got everything painted again for the second coat, everything looked so much better. And then once everything dried, we knew that it was time to go ahead and start trimming out the paint. And honestly, after a few brush strokes, I knew that I was going to absolutely love the black trim. And typically I have a really steady hand, and I don't necessarily need to tape off all of the trim, but for whatever reason I was making mistakes left and right. So I decided to take a couple steps back and tape everything off, and then go ahead and continue with my painting. And as you can see here, there's just, a couple of spaces throughout the room that the paint seeped underneath the tape. And I just took a really fine brush and took some of our trim paint and went ahead and cleaned up those lines. And honestly, once that was done and all of the trim was done and all of the doors were painted black, I just stepped back and really loved what I did, and I just thought that it really made that pop that I was looking for in the room really stand out, and I love it. It was one of the best decisions that we made in this room. Once the room was finally painted and everything was dried, we went ahead and installed a matte black ceiling fan that we got from Home Depot, and it really just pulled everything together. And so once that was in, we went ahead and started to bring in all of the furniture and my decorative items, and I think now would be a good time for a reveal, don't you think? All right, let's go. Quite the transformation, huh? I don't think that this is going to be a surprise to anyone here, but about 85% of every item in this room has come either from a thrift store or a vintage shop. So I thought that it would be fun to just go around, show you some of my favorite pieces, where I got them, and of course, how I styled them. Sound good? All right, let's go. I purchased this dresser at the Raleigh flea market about 5 years ago, and I absolutely love it. The seller had it marked for $50 and even said that he would deliver it to me for free if I took it. And how could I say no to an offer like that? So I absolutely took it, and I love it. I just love all of the details. I love the brass around the keyholes. Hopefully you can see that. And I also really love, and you can tell that a piece has really been constructed well when you see here in the inside of the drawers that it's been dovetailed. Just love that detail. So in the drawers of this dresser, I have added in some extra blankets and some towels, as well as sheets and pillowcases. Just all of the linens that our guests will need are stored in this dresser, and I just really love that there is a space for that in this room. I found this mirror at a thrift store for only $25, and I knew immediately that I was going to take it because I wanted something that was chunky to go over the dresser. There was some paint imperfections at the store, so what I did was took some of the rest of my black trim and door paint and painted it a matte black, and I just absolutely love how it looks in this space. At the same thrift store, I found this accordion lampshade and immediately put it into my basket because I knew I had the perfect lamp at home to place it on. My friend Ashlyn Goldberg found this brass lamp while out thrifting, and she posted it on IG. I immediately loved it and told her that if she ever wanted to sell it to me, to let me know. Well, several months later, she reached out and said she was finally ready to sell it, and now it sits here on this dresser, and I absolutely love it. Again, at the same thrift store that day, I found this large basket for just a few dollars, and I picked it up knowing that it would be perfect to place right here next to the dresser to place some extra throw blankets in. For those of you that have seen the guest bathroom video, this blanket will look familiar as I purchased it at the Granddaddy's Antique Store that I went to in that video. Speaking of Granddaddy's Antique Store, you know I love the pottery selection that they have there. So on a separate trip, I picked up this very unique black vase. They actually called it a candelabra, but I knew that I wanted to place it here as a sculptural piece. I also found this little jar, and I just loved it because I love anything that has a lid on it, so I picked that up as well. I found this brown jug at a garage sale last year. Actually, I found it last summer, and I just really loved how it looked. It actually is a jug, and there is a top that goes on it, but as you can see here, I'm using it as a vase. I found these really beautiful dried flowers that I've placed in there, and I just kind of really love that look, that minimal look that it's giving in this space. I purchased this brass container actually from one of my favorite thrift stores here in Durham, and it was only $1, and I really like it just because of the detail. I love the beads that's going around it, but I also love it because I store my TV and the ceiling fan remotes inside. Isn't this chair great? I found it probably a couple of months ago while I was at a thrift store, and you're not gonna believe it, but it was only $40. When I saw it, I knew that I had to have it because I love the color, I loved all of the tufting, and actually it rocks and swivels. So it was an immediate yes for me, and I knew that it was going to be perfect right here in the guest bedroom. These deli brooms are from a shop called Souk Bohemian, and I absolutely love the texture that it gives to this space. I'm very much a fan of not only putting paintings and pictures on a wall, but I love adding found pieces of wood, brooms such as these up on the wall just to give the space a little bit of an interesting texture. I've had this bed for quite some time, and I actually think I got it on Wayfair. I don't know what it is, but there's something about a canopy bed that I just love, and I knew that when I was moving away from my apartment and into this home that I wanted to bring the bed with me. All of the white bedding came from West Elm, and it's just really soft and luxurious feeling. And then this cashmere throw came from Pottery Barn, and I actually got it on sale. I really, really love that. And this amazing pillow came from the Lenny Kravitz collection at CB2. I just love all of the textures. I'm not sure if you can see it on screen. And then obviously all of the colors that tie in with what's going on in the bedroom. It just really is a nice statement here on the bed. I found this vintage lampshade over on Loft and Thought and immediately slid into Carmen's DMs because I knew that I had to have this lampshade in this space. I knew that it would match, but it wouldn't be matchy-matchy with the other accordion lampshade that I have over on the dresser. So she named her price, I told her I wanted it, and she shipped it a couple of days later. So once it arrived, I actually loved it even more so than I did online. It really was in perfect condition. I originally didn't have a lamp for it, but I knew that in time that I would eventually find one. So one day while I was visiting the Salvage Sisters out in Burlington, North Carolina, I saw this lamp and knew that it would be perfect in the bedroom with this lampshade on it. So I brought it home. Wasn't a fan of the pink base, so I went ahead, bought a can of black matte spray paint, spray painted the bottom of it, and then went ahead and added it to this table, and it's kind of perfect, right? So this next piece is from Etsy, and I absolutely love it. It's this scalloped marble bowl, and you've probably seen a lot of these bowls on the internet. There's a lot of them going around, but what I loved most about this one is that it was handmade and the price was actually really good. So I'll be sure to link it down below, but I absolutely love it. Hopefully you can see all that beautiful detail. Another piece that I want to show you is this wooden sculptural piece that I purchased at a vintage market that I attended while I was at home in Ohio. What I love so much about it is that it used to be a finial on top of a building downtown Cleveland, and so I just really love that I have a piece of home here in this space. Before I move on, I do want to mention that I got this table from a garage sale, and I really do love it because just like the dresser on the other side, it can be used as a nightstand. And by the way, I am not from the mindset that I think that both of the nightstands on either side of the bed have to match perfectly with one another, but what I do like is when they complement each other, like both my dresser and this table do. And then finally, at that same market, I found this vintage hat mold, and you know I had to have it. If you've seen my closet video, you know that I am obsessed with hats. And so when I saw it, I knew that it had to be in my space. So I've had it sitting on a table, I've had it on a bookshelf, but I thought in this room it would look really pretty on the wall, hanging it like I did. And I just really do love that it just adds that little bit of interest that isn't a picture or a painting like I mentioned before. And that's it. I am dying to find out what you guys think about the transformation of this guest bedroom, but before I let you go, you know that every space that I curate, I like to include 3 specific elements. So let's see if I'm able to check off all those boxes. So the first element is a statement piece, and I think for sure in this space it's the canopy bed. It's just hard to miss, and it's the first thing that you see in this space, so I would absolutely say canopy bed. For something feminine, I think that I would say the ruffled bed skirt, as well as the accordion lampshades, both of them, as well as the dried flowers. I think they're just kind of add a little bit of softness to the space, and I really do love those pieces. And in terms of the vintage items, honestly, I could probably just circle the whole picture because there's so many vintage items in this space. But in terms of, I guess, my top 4, I would say the dresser, the chair, both of the lamps, and the pottery. So now that all of those boxes are checked off, I think it's finally time to let you go. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I beg you to please comment below. I don't really like talking at you. I'd rather have a conversation with you about everything that I post each week. So don't be shy. Put a comment down below. I promise you that I will respond. Additionally, before you go, don't forget to hit that like button if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching your first video today. Welcome to the group, and please hit that subscribe button. And if you find it worthy enough to share with your friends and your followers, please do that. I will be ever so grateful. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Mwah! I love you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.